Hey everyone! Welcome to The Young and the Restless. I'm Jane, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you love Young and the Restless, then you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Alright, let's dive right in. According to Monday, August 4th spoilers for The Young and the Restless, Adam Newman will be ambushed at the office as Claire Newman and Kyle Abbott try to strike a deal. Adam will be shocked to see Kyle and Claire at Newman Media. Claire will explain why they unexpectedly visited his workplace since Adam will be left wondering why they were there. It turns out that Claire and Kyle will be trying to reach an agreement, so Adam might think Victor Newman is unaware of this. Claire might counter that since she is an adult and capable of making her own decisions, they don't require Victor's consent. Kyle boldly told Victor and Nice that he would move in with Claire when he returned home. Victor may not be able to continue blocking the significant relationship milestone for very long. Kyle and Claire might try to reserve Adam's spot if it's still open. Even though Victor has forbidden this real estate contract, Claire and Kyle might put pressure on Adam to sign it. The death of Cole Howard has served as a helpful reminder for Claire to live each day to the fullest. Since there is no guarantee for the future, Cole's passing might have served as a wake-up call for Claire, motivating her to take action. Claire will be prepared to begin their next chapter together because this time apart has also let her realize how important Kyle is to her. As seen by Claire's insistence on seeing Kyle prior to attending the Newman family gathering, YNR fans are already beginning to notice that she is becoming a bit more bold about confronting Victor. Claire's additional action of making a deal with Adam behind Victor's back will not be appreciated. Given that Victor and Adam are now on better terms, Adam could be a little hesitant to upset Victor. Claire and Kyle will have to persuade Adam that the deal they are requesting is worthwhile. According to spoilers for The Young and the Restless, Kyle and Claire will update Adam on their proposal, therefore, watch to see if they will receive the positive news they seek. The door of Adam Newman's office at Newman Enterprises slammed shut behind him with such power that even he was shocked. It seemed like a pressure cooker, the slick, chrome-furnished room that had once made him feel powerful and in control. The air smelled somewhat of anxiety and coffee, and the blinds were half drawn, creating lengthy shadows on the floor. In anticipation of a peaceful moment to get ready for a board meeting that may decide his future with the company, he had arrived early. However, he was ambushed instead. The room was already occupied by Claire Grace and Kyle Abbott, who appeared to be the owners. Claire seemed confident and unfazed by his arrival, with her knees crossed and her torso slightly inclined. With his arms crossed over his chest, Kyle appeared less arrogant than normal but just as determined. Adam paused, taking in the circumstances. This was not a call to socialize. This was a deliberate, well-timed move. The first to speak was Claire, who had a calm but implicit desperation in her voice. With a clipped and purposeful tone, she stated, "We felt it would be best if we had this conversation in private." Adam's brows sharpened, before the board hears anything messy. He detested being trapped, especially by two individuals who, in his opinion, were at best opportunists. The newest member of the Newman family, Claire, had made it clear right away that she would only follow her own rules. And on a good day, Adam was not very patient with him. He was constantly searching for the next power perch, bouncing between Jabot and Newman like a ping-pong ball. Now, it was obvious that he was working with Claire on something more ambitious. Adam threw his briefcase on the desk and stood there, saying firmly, "Go ahead." He refused to take a seat and let them make all the decisions. Not right now. Never. Kyle's voice was quieter and more circumspect than Claire's as he leaned forward a little. "We are aware of the figures. The disparities in the expansion project in Michigan." Adam was drawn to the calls to the construction company that, for some reason, did not appear in the official logs. He tightened his mouth, but he didn't recoil. He had exercised caution. Very cautious. However, it was obvious that Kyle had more access than he disclosed, or that he had been receiving information from someone. Adam started to say something, but Claire interrupted. Our purpose is not to report you. Not quite yet. Her gaze darted purposefully. However, we could. At this point, the board would adore a controversy. Particularly one that leaves your seat open. Adam was more perplexed by the motivation than the obvious threat. They hadn't yet requested money, but he still expected blackmail. Why, therefore, the cordial visit? Adam's voice was even but cold when he eventually inquired. This does not sound like a surprise attack. It has a pitch-like sound. Claire gave a small smile, as if she had been anticipating that line. Exactly. We'd like to get in on your next course of action. We are aware that you are not merely faking numbers. You're attempting to control a larger object. The succession plan may be impacted by a change in the corporate structure. We're willing to assist. Discreetly. In a strategic manner. Adam nearly burst out laughing. We keep our mouths shut, and you give us a seat at the table. Not even for them was it audacious. Kyle had ruined more relationships than most people ever made, and Claire had only been with the Newman family for a season. Nevertheless, he found their strategy intriguing for some reason. The blackmail was amateur hour, not the real thing. But the boldness. The realization. The fact that no one else had the courage to look at the obvious connections they had made. Adam's tone sharpened as he replied, You have no idea what you're asking to be a part of. This isn't a publicity stunt. It's chess. Corporate conflict. The kind that deprives people of their futures, families, and jobs. Claire's face remained unwavering. We are fully aware of what we are entering into. Do you believe that you are the only one who has acted dishonestly? Who has been forced to scrounge their way out of the disaster that their last name has left them in? Her voice lowered as she leaned slightly closer. I'm not that different from you. Kyle isn't either. All of us have experienced abuse, betrayal, and blame. Adam looked at her face for a long time before turning to face Kyle. Now we want to make sure we're never the ones left in the wreckage again. The younger Abbott had a fixed jaw and steady eyes. Likewise, there was no hesitancy. Just decide. He took his time moving around the desk, allowing the quiet to linger. He shrugged and ultimately replied, You know, most people who try to blackmail me end up regretting it. We're not using blackmail. We are in a negotiation. We keep you covered, and you keep us informed. It's a win-win situation. Adam laughed without humor. You think I need cover. You will, Claire remarked coolly. Not today. Not tomorrow. But when does this subsequent stage occur? She straightened her skirt and got up, prepared to leave. You'll need allies inside and outside the boardroom. Adam, we are not adversaries. Your best chance of remaining in power is with us. Do you really believe that Victoria, Nikki, or even Victor would be reluctant to let you go as soon as it suits them? Adam remained silent. At least you know the price with us. Not right away. He saw them go, Claire leading the way and Kyle following. This time, the door closed silently. The early morning light was just starting to break through the clouds as he turned to face the window. His thoughts were racing. One thing they were correct about was that now wasn't the time. It was a matter of survival. Brutal, unrepentant, long-term survival. He had to choose between folding, raising, or playing along after Claire and Kyle revealed their cards, whether he liked it or not. News spread quickly through glances and murmurs in other parts of Genoa City. When they met at Crimson Lights, Sharon could see Claire's attitude, confident, even smug. There was undoubtedly a problem. The tension also affected Summer, who had only begun to wonder more and more about Kyle's intentions. Later that afternoon, she saw him on a call outside society, his posture focused, his pace quick, and his voice quiet. It was obvious that he was moving. But for what reason and with whom? Victoria, meantime, was becoming more and more skeptical. Adam's recent ideas, particularly the rapid reorganization in the Midwest branch, had already caused her to have her reservations. He was always hiding something, and she knew it. However, she was surprised to see Claire circle Adam like a hawk. Claire had presented herself as confused, emotionally broken, and even remorseful about her relationship with Jordan. All of a sudden, she was negotiating power struggles and creating coalitions. Kyle wasn't any more trustworthy than Victoria. In recent months, the Abbott-Newman antagonism had subsided, but old habits persisted. And trouble was ahead when Kyle slipped into Adam's circle. At dinner with Victor, Nikki, who is always perceptive and rarely quiet, brought it up. She sipped her wine and remarked, "Newman is moving inside. And not the type that's simple to track down. Adam is becoming bolder once more. Claire isn't merely recovering, either. She is plotting." Victor replied with a grunt. He had also been observing Adam. Waiting, watching. Adam was at his most deadly and predictable when he was allowed to play his hand. "Give him the impression that he's winning," Victor remarked coolly. "All of them should think that. We strike when the time is right." Following the ambush, Adam sat in silence for a while back at Newman Towers. He then took his phone out and called a number he hadn't called in months. When the phone rang, he said, "It's me. We must advance the timeline. Whether I like them or not, I have new partners." He hung up and turned to his computer. One piece of a much larger puzzle was the enlargement project. Claire and Kyle would have to experience what it was like to play in Adam Newman's world the hard way if they wanted to. Only leverage existed, with no assurances or allegiances. Claire and Kyle reconnected in the Grand Phoenix's back room across town. At first, they spoke very little. There was only a nod, a tacit understanding that the first step was over. Claire pulled out her iPad and presented Kyle with a spreadsheet that contained names that weren't on any official document, anonymous transactions, and discreetly redirected accounts. At last, she continued, "He bought it." Kyle did not smile. Or at least, he's pretending he did. "It doesn't matter." Claire nodded, "We're in now." Phase 2? "We achieve our goals," Kyle stated resolutely. Claire's eyes remained fixed on Adam. "And if Adam goes out of line, we burn him." Neither of them saw the camera concealed in the lamp across the room, so they said, "Let's just hope he gives us a reason." Or the encrypted feed going straight to Victor Newman's private study on a secure laptop. With cold disinterest, the mustache-twisting patriarch observed. He didn't have to speak. It wasn't over yet. It was only the start. Claire, Kyle, and Adam's office ambush looked for a deal. Adam sat behind his desk, pounding furiously against the polished wood surface, and the tension in the office was evident. Even though he had anticipated this moment, he was nevertheless taken aback by how abrupt it was. Without even a knock, the door sprang open, and Claire and Kyle walked in, their faces displaying a mixture of resolve and barely concealed annoyance. Adam folded his arms and leaned back in his chair, seemingly preparing for the encounter he had been dreading. Claire didn't waste any time, her piercing voice sliced like a knife through the dense silence. She stated, "We need to talk," in a tone that made no space for compromise. Standing just behind her, Kyle's typically laid-back manner gave way to a steely resolve that matched Claire's ferocity. Adam let out a deep breath, fully aware that this was not a light conversation but rather a planned ambush designed to compel his hand. Weeks, if not months, of simmering emotions caused the air between them to crackle with unsaid complaints. Claire was usually the one who planned everything out before acting, and this time was no different. She had purposefully picked this time, when Adam was by himself and the other members of the team were out of earshot, so that no one would be around to see what happened. Despite being less combative by temperament, Kyle had obviously been persuaded that this was the only viable option. Adam considered his alternatives and studied them carefully. He could pretend to be ignorant, play dumb, and make them explain what they wanted. Alternatively, he may get right to the point and confront the issue directly. He chose the latter. Despite the uneasiness churning in his stomach, he responded, "All right," in a firm voice. "Let's hear it." Claire didn't think twice. "We want a deal," she said bluntly as she met his gaze. "The way things are going isn't working, not for us, not for the company. We've put in the time, the effort, and we're not seeing the returns we were promised." Adam clenched his jaw. Even while he had expected these complaints about workload, pay, and corporate direction, he still found it painful to hear them presented so directly. Kyle nodded in agreement but shifted uneasily. He continued, his voice softer but no less forceful, "We're not here to make threats." The message was unmistakable, they were ready to walk. "But we need to know where we stand. If things don't change, we can't keep going like this." Adam's thoughts were racing. It would be devastating for the company as a whole as well as for morale to lose Claire and Kyle. They were important participants, and their knowledge was short-term irreplaceable. However, granting their requests would create a risky precedent. Others would do the same if news spread that he could be coerced into making concessions by the staff. He had to find a compromise, a way to please them without coming across as weak. His tone remained neutral as he asked, "What exactly are you proposing?" After looking at Kyle, Claire took a folded piece of paper out of her bag. She slid it in Adam's direction across the desk. "We've outlined our terms," she continued. Adam scanned the carefully prepared bullet points as he unfurled the page. The list was extensive and included things like pay raises, updated equity stakes, increased autonomy in decision-making, and clearer pathways to promotion. Ambitious, but not completely out of the question. He exhaled slowly as he thought about what to do next. He could flatly refuse it, but it would probably drive them away. Accepting it would require him to submit to their wishes. He may also try to establish a compromise that would benefit everyone by negotiating. His face was unreadable as he gazed up at them. He responded, "This is a lot to take in," with caution. "I'll need some time to go over it." Claire's mouth formed a thin line. She retorted, "We've given you plenty of time already." Her bluntness made Adam tense, but he couldn't refute the truth in her statement. "Every meeting, every review, we've brought these issues up, and nothing's changed. We're not leaving this office without an answer." In the past, he had dismissed their worries, thinking they would ultimately forget about it. He had obviously misjudged their determination. Sensing the tension building, Kyle spoke up. With a more accommodative tone, he stated, "We're not trying to back you into a corner. But we need to know if you're willing to work with us. If not, we'll have to consider our options." The ultimatum was a looming threat. Adam put his elbows on the desk and leaned forward. "All right," he responded following a protracted silence. "Let's talk this through." Over the course of the following hour, the three of them discussed, argued, and made concessions on each issue, occasionally arguing but gradually moving closer to a consensus. Kyle acted as a mediator, moderating her stance when needed, but Claire was unyielding and supported each demand with reasoned justifications. Adam, for his part, acknowledged that some modifications were unavoidable and maintained his position on some issues while giving in on others. The room was still tight, but there was a glimmer of mutual understanding by the time they came to a tentative compromise. Adam stayed sitting and watched Claire and Kyle get up to go. "This doesn't mean everything's fixed," he added softly. Claire agreed, "There's still a lot of work to do." "But we know," she said. Adam was left alone with his thoughts as they left after saying, "But it's a start." He massaged his temples as fatigue set in. Although unexpected, the ambush might have been required. It had compelled what had been a long-awaited conversation. He knew that Claire and Kyle wouldn't give him another chance if he didn't fulfill the promises he had just made, therefore fulfilling them would be the true problem. Adam exhaled deeply as he gazed at the agreement on his desk as the office door clicked shut behind them. If either party did not fulfill their end of the bargain, the ceasefire may simply fall apart. But the struggle was over, at least for the time being.